Welcome. This week we're going to learn Parshas Emor. So the beginning of the Parsha, it talks about kohanim, that who is a kohen allowed to marry. So a kohen hedyot says, Isha zoyna v'chalola lo yikachu. They shouldn't marry a zoyna or a chalola. Chalola is, she comes from a apostle of marriage, that her father married somebody that was usher to him, so she's a chalola, lo yikachu. V'isha grusha me'isha lo yikachu. And he also shouldn't marry a divorced woman. Why? Ki kadeshu le'lekov. Because the kohen is holy, he's kaddish, and his kedusha does not allow him to marry a zoyna, chalola, or a grusha. Now, a zoyna chalola, I understand, because it's something wrong with this woman. She's a zoyna, or she has a psul of chalola. So the kedusha does not allow to marry somebody who's puzzle. He's too holy for that. But why can't he marry a grusha? What is she? I mean, she's a kosher woman. She's not married. She's a pnuya. So why can't he marry a grusha? What's wrong with a grusha? I mean, an almana, he is allowed to marry. He's allowed to marry a previously married woman. But if she became previously married through a divorce, he's not allowed to marry her. So is the problem because a woman that went through a divorce maybe had a contentious time with her husband, and they had a fight, and it wasn't good for the midas? Okay, but that's nothing to do with kedusha. You could say a kohen should maybe have a ruiga life, and he shouldn't marry a contentious woman. I mean, if that's what it means, but it has nothing to do with his kedusha. Why does a divorced woman who is not married and she's a pnuya and she's not possible in any way, why should he not marry her? How does that impact his kedusha? So, in Parshas Kiseitze, Parshas Kiseitze talks about the parsha of gerushin, of divorce. So a person who, Matzel Barav Dover didn't get along, he didn't like what she did. The Gemara says, even if she spoiled his tafshel, even if she burned this food, he could divorce her. So there was a reason that he's divorcing her, so he gives her a get. If the cost of say increases, if doesn't biyada, v'shilcha mebeisai, and he divorces her, sends her away. V'yotza mebeisai, she leaves his house. V'halcha v'oisel l'shacha, she marries somebody else. Usneya ish achron, and doesn't work out with the second husband either. He hates her. So he also, Kosla Sefer Krisis, nothing beyond. He also gives her a get and he sends her away. Or if he dies, either way, I mean, either that marriage doesn't work out, or it ends because he died, or maybe it did work out but he died, or it didn't work out and he gave her a get. The first husband is not allowed to take her back and marry her. It's called, there's an Isser, Machzer, Grushosai, Lachesh, and Isis. You cannot remarry your divorced wife after she had already been married to somebody else. And the Pasuk adds, Achrei Asher Hutama. Because she was Hutama, she became Tameh, which is the language of Arayas, Asher Hutama. Why is she Hutama? What did she do? She married, she was free from him, she was divorced, and then she was a Pnuya, she was Mutter L'Shuk, she got married to the second person, Kosher v'Yosher, all the Rabbanim, the Rosh Hashivas were there, it was Gevaldik, everyone was happy about it, and then either he died or they got divorced, and now he wants to take her back. Where was she Hutama? What did she do? So I think what the pasuk is saying here is that when a person divorces his wife, there is always a little bit of that relationship is left there. It's not completely eradicated. There is a dormant relationship when you divorce your wife. There's a little bit of that relationship left there. But that relationship does not forbid her to marry somebody else. She can go, okay, it's not enough. That little bit of relationship that's left there is not an Eishes Ish. She can marry somebody else. However, if he takes her back, then that dormant relationship is chayza v'nir. It was dormant for a while, but then once he takes her back, it reawakens the entire relationship retroactively, even not to the point where with the second nesuin is bottle, it's kilu we married Eishes Ish, but it brings it to life. Rav Pala used to say, as der was kommt, whoever comes to his yeshiva, der was kommt und geht weg, is a raya es kemol nish gewen. If you come and you leave, so that means you were never there. And I'd like to add to that the corollary that der was geht weg und kommt zurück, is a raya kemol nish weggegangen. If you leave and you come back, that means you never really left. Because you just left temporarily, but then you came back. So it's not really that you left. So the same thing over here. A person divorces his wife, so they left, but there's still something dormant. And when he takes her back, so then it's a riot that he never really left. That this relationship was always there. Now it wasn't always there to the point where retroactively it would be mamish like the second husband married a Eishes Ish, but there was that second relationship was there. If you take her back, then that second relationship was there during her marriage to the second person. Then that relationship which you reawakened was there during her marriage to the second person. Therefore, retroactively, her living with the second person was a kind of tumah, because she was living with a man where she was really had a more active relationship with her first husband retroactively. So therefore, you're not allowed to do that. But if you don't take her back, then it always remains dormant, and therefore there's no problem. But if you do take her back, then retroactively she was utama, and then it's also for you to live with her. That's what the pasuk is saying. So maybe according to this, you could explain over here also that a kohen, this dormant relationship, it's not no relationship. There is a dormant relationship there, and that dormant relationship does not answer her to people. She's not an Eishes Ish. However, a kohen who is kodesh should not marry a woman who has a dormant relationship with another person. That is what the pasuk is saying. She is a ksheira, there's nothing wrong with her, but she has a dormant relationship with another man, and it's not reawakened. He didn't take her back. But even if he doesn't take her back, there is something there. There is a dormant relationship. There is a sleeping relationship. Therefore, you should not marry a woman who has any kind of relationship with another man. That is a stira to kedusha. That's what I think the pasuk may be saying here. Yeah. Okay. So a little bit further in the parsha, there's some very interesting psukim here. We're talking about the list of the parsha starts of here to list all the mayadim and all the halachas and the mitzvahs and the karbanas and all these things. So starts like this: Daber el bnei Yisrael v'amarta aleihem mayadei Hashem asher tikra isom mikroi kodesh Elohim mayadoi. It sounds like Elohim mayadoi as if there should be a colon after that. Elohim mayadoi introduces a list. Elohim mayadoi, these are my mayadim, and then the Sheish Yom Tasam Malacha of Yom HaShvi Shabbos Shabbos and Mikra Kodesh. So the Mefarshim want to know, how does Shabbos at the head of the list of Mayadim? Shabbos. Now Rashi says, Ma in Yeshabbos eitz Mayados ulamedcha shekol mechalos Mayados malav kilchil Shabbosos. Rashi does not ask you why Shabbos is in this list. or why this is the first. You're saying introducing a list of Moyadim, and the first thing that you introduce is Shabbos. Rashi is not bothered by that. Rashi is bothered by something else. We're talking about Moyadim. Why do we have Shabbos together with Moyadim? Why are they together? So Rashi says to teach us, if you machal some Moyadim, kill you machal Shabbos. Fine. That's why there is a juxtaposition of Shabbos and the Moyados. But why is that the first thing that's mentioned on the list? Ele Moyadoi and Shabbos. You should say Ele Moyadoi, tell the Moyadim, tell Shabbos afterwards, and then you'll say that Shabbos is coming to tell you. But why is Shabbos at the top of the list? That's the Mefarshim, struggle with this. But the Rechaim also asks that there's a double lashon here, twice. And then again, what's this? Why? It's repetitive. What is he saying? And then later it says again, after Shabbos, then you say it again. So you say it once, and you say it twice, and you say it 3 times. So what's the reason for this? And also, if you look at the pasuk, we know that from elementary school grammar, that a sentence has a subject and a verb. The man went. So you have a subject and a verb for what he did. That is a sentence. The man is not a sentence. It doesn't have a verb. What about the man? Doesn't say anything. Doesn't say a description of him. Doesn't say like a predicate adjective. The man is tall. There's nothing. Just the man. That's not a sentence. So here, the first part of this pasuk, the Moyadim that you shall call Mikroi Kodesh is what? There's no continuation. The sentence is katua. There's no. The rest, is like Mikra Masuras, that you have to provide your own verb to this. And then he says Eilhem Meyadai. So, and then he repeats it, Eilhem Meyadai. So what is this sentence saying? So Rashi says that the first time it says Meyadai Hashem, Mikroi Kodesh, that is referring to Rashi here. Dabra b'nei Yisrael Meyadai Hashem, Asay Meyadai sheyu Yisrael mulamoda b'hem, sheme'abrim es hashon al golish l'nekru me'mekoim elal s'regel v'daim l'yigiyu. Right, the Gemara Sanhedrin hold about the Ibur Hashana, that Bezdin is allowed to insert a second Adar, and if the people are left to far places and it was bad weather and they're stuck on the road and they won't be able to get to Yerushalayim in time for Liyul Regel, so Bezdin is allowed to insert a second Adar, and then the Pesach, instead of coming out in that time, it comes out a month later. That's what the first pasuk is talking about. The second pasuk, Rashi says, Eilem Yad Hashem, L'ma'ala Medaber B'Ibra Hashana. Before he's talking the second pasuk later, after Shabbos, Eilem Yad Hashem Mikroi Kodesh Tikroi Samayadam. That's talking about Kiddush HaChodesh. That Bezdin is Mekadosh the Chodesh. That's Mikroi Kodesh. I think like this. When there is Ibur Hashana, then Bezdin is actually deciding, Bezdin is actually controlling when the month happens. But when the Yontif happens, it's supposed to happen in March, and they decide, no, it's important, people are coming, or other reasons. The Gemara has a number of reasons why. So therefore, they decide, and they move Pesach to April, or to, I don't know, whatever. But Bezdin is the one who sets the time of the Moed. Whereas by Kiddush HaChodesh, Bezdin doesn't set the time of the Moed. The time of the Moed is when the new month comes, the new Levana. That's when 15 days after the new Levana, that's when it's Pesach. But when is new Levana? You have to have Eidim, they come. So Bezdin is over there to adjudicate, to take evidence, to establish when is the Levana. But Bezdin is not doing anything on their own to decide where it is. Bezdin just following the process that how do you know when the Levon is? So two of them have to come and they say, Bezdin has to question them, you have to establish evidence. That's how so that's not called that Bezdin decides when the month is going to be. It's called that it's happening through the work of Bezdin, so you could say Mekadesh Yisrael v'Rosh Chadoshem, or Mekadesh Yisrael v'Rosh Me'adim, the Mekadesh Yisrael Shehei Mekadshim, because Lamaisa, if Bezdin wouldn't do anything, then it would be, time would pass, and then Mishemayim Mekadshim would be later. So since Bezdin does their work, it comes out a day earlier, so therefore it's called that through Bezdin's work, you get to that. That's when the Chodesh was, but it's not really Bezdin placing the moed at that time. Whereas if it's Rosh Hashanah, then Bezdin places the moed at a time of their choosing. They choose to do it a month later. That's what Bezdin does. So the first pasuk is talking about Rosh Hashanah. The second pasuk is talking about Kiddush Chodesh. Now let's read the psukim. This is what the pasuk says. Those Yomim Tovim that you will establish through Rosh Hashanah, Elohei Ma'adoi. I consider these my own Mayadim as if I did it. That's is not. There's no colon after Elohei Ma'adoi. That's not the heading of a list. Elohei Ma'adoi. It's a statement about the Mayadei Shemesh Tikroisam. Those that you decide. If you decide to make Pesach a month later, Elohei Ma'adoi, I accept that as if I did it. These are my mayadim. That's what the pasuk is saying. The pasuk says, so there's no duplication here, and there's no half. There is a subject and there is a verb. Those months that you are mekadesh, I consider them to be my mayadim. That is a complete sentence. So the second part completes the first sentence and it tells you how the Rebbeinu Shalom looks at what Bezdin did. I look at it, as if I had decided, I endorse your work, and if you did it, I did it. That's what it says, Elohim Mayadai. But later, and then he says Shabbos. Okay, so now, first he tells you a klal. You know, Rosh Hashanah works, and whatever you do is considered like my Mayadim. And now he goes and he tells you, we have Shabbos, and then we have Yomim Tovim. Now he's saying these are the Mayadim which are established through Kiddush HaChodesh, and he goes and he lists all the Mayadim. So the list actually starts later. The list doesn't start by the Elohei Mayadai. The Elohei Mayadai was not the head of a list. It was an explanation. It was a conclusion of the first part. Elohei Mayadai. Do whatever you establish in Rosh Hashanah. That's good. That's fine. That's as if the same thing as if it had been a regular year. It's the same thing. I accept these fully. That's one statement established. Okay, now let's get to the list. Now the list starts with we didn't have a heading to this list. There's no heading. Now we start saying you have Shabbos, and then you go through all the Yom Tovim. So everything is in its place. And Elohim Adai is telling you that those that you established in Rosh Hashanah, those are Mayadai, and I consider them. There are other diyukim in the psukim which work out very well with this, but I'm not going to belabor them over here. I don't want everybody to lose patience. Okay, now, so now we have after Pesach, now we're standing in the Mea Sfira, and here's the mitzvah of Sfira. Ad Mochaz Shabbos Tisperu Chamishim Yom. So you have to have 50 days, 49 days, 50 days. So the Gemara says in Menachos, Omer Abaye, mitzvah lemimni yomi, a mitzvah lemimni shvui. We have to count the days and we have to count the weeks. And that's what we do. We count days and we count weeks. It says Chamishim Yom, and it says Sheva Shabbos, Tamimas, you have Shavuos, and you have Yomim. I usually don't say things that I hear from other people, but I want to say over Vart that I heard from my Chavrusa, Yosef Chaim Cohn, my co-author on the Guide to the Guide on the Rambam. Brilliant man, a very good friend of mine. So he said like this. He has a few questions. He says, the yomim, when we count yomim, we count right away the yomim. When we count the day, the first day, the second day, we count it at night. As soon as the day starts, we count that day. Whereas if we count the weeks, we count it when we reach the end of the first week. Why don't we count the week when at the beginning of the first week, just like we count by the day? The first day starts, we don't wait for the whole day to be complete and say that this was a day. We start right away. This is the first day, in the beginning. Or the 8th day, or whatever it is, in the beginning. So why don't we do the same thing for weeks? We should count at the beginning. So if you tell me for some reason that weeks have to be counted at the end, then we should count it at the end of the week, not at the beginning of the 7th day. We should count it at the end of the 7th day. Why do we count it at the beginning of the 7th day? How do you count weeks? If you count it at the beginning of the week, you should count at the beginning of the first day, when the week begins. If you count it at the end of the week, then you should count it at the end of the 7th day, when the week ends. Why do we count the week at the beginning of the 7th day, which is not at the beginning of the week and not at the end of the week? And also, yes, another question, that when it comes to the days, we count the day only once. We don't count it at night and in the morning and the afternoon. Every day we count the day one time. So why do we count the week every day? Why do we count the week one time? The beginning, at the end, the middle, one time count the week. Why do we need to keep counting again and again the weeks? I think these are very good questions. So this is what he wanted to say. I think sometimes I wish I had said it myself. That's why I'm here. Like this. When you have the numbering systems that we have, the way we use, a decimal system, that means that if you have, let's say, the number 13, so we have columns. We have the 10 column and the 3 column. So it says a 1 and a 3. That means we have 1 10 and 3 1s. If it says a 5 52, means you have 5 10s and 2 1s. That's how we do it. It's a 10-based system, decimal system. But what if the first column was not 10? It was a different number. Let's say it was 5. So if it said 1 2, that would mean a 5 and a 2. That would be 7. So the reason why 1 2 is 12 is because the first column, the column to the left, is a 10 column. It also could be a different number. With the world, for some reason, I think the Romans tried to change it once, but the system is a decimal system. It's all based on 10. Why 10? I don't know, maybe Rabbi Shalom made everybody does that, but everything is based on a 10. Those societies that can count up to 10, some can only count to 3, as I once mentioned. But so when you get to double digits, first is 10. But so when the Torah says you should count Shavuos, there's something special about Shavuos that has to do with the Sphira. You count the Sphira, you count the days, 49 days. That's the count. But there's also something special about Shavuos. You see, Api Kabbalah, Chesed, Gevura, Teferes, Netzach, Chod Yisod, Malchus, 7 times. So every day and this week is called the week of Chesed. There's something, I don't know how this has to do with Pesach or Shavuos, but there is something here that has to do with weeks, right? So the Torah says that you should count Sphira with a decimal system, which is normal. That's called Yomim. You should also count it with a 7-base system. That means that the first digit would be the 7, and the second digit is the 1. So that's what it says. So when you say that this is Shloisha Shavuos v'Shisha Yomim L'Omer, Basically, you're counting days, but instead of counting it, if you would say 36, that means 3 tens and a 6. But if you say 3 weeks and 6, that means you're counting, the first column is weeks, so 3 sevens and a 6. That's what it means. Shlosh Shavuos means 3 sevens and a 6. So that's what it means to count Shavuos, not to count weeks, but to count days through a week system, through a septimal system, not with tens, but with sevens. So the first week, so you always count the beginning of the day. Always count the beginning of the day. The first 6 days, there is no difference whether you're going on a decimal system or you're going on a septimal system. There's no difference. It's all the same. So the first 6 days, you count units. You count 6 units. When you come to the 7th day, then if you're going with a septimal system, you end up with a different, not the units, you're going into the other column, which is weeks. So then on the 7th day, you say Shvua Echad. This is Shvua Echad. And then you continue. Let's say it's the middle of the week, so you say Ayam Shvua Echad v'Shnei Yomim. Because why are you mentioning Yomim if you count Shavuos? Because you're counting with a septimal system. So you have to have both columns. You have the week and you have the days. So Mela, that's what you have to do. So really it's very well resolved. I think it's wonderful. Thank you very much. I hope to see you again next week.